damn crazy, man. The people that want to deny that there's a chosen J-ish conspiracy, you literally can't know things like it. That can only be because you have got a like before view. Love that. If you're watching my shit, like, share, and subscribe. You can't know what's going. Like the truth is, they tell you the truth. It's not hidden from you at all. The truth is easily found if you just look. I accidentally stumbled into it. I knew this existed, but I was trying to talk about Robert Maxwell and Epstein and stuff. Trying to talk about Epstein, Maxwell, and accidentally found myself talking about the Samson option. And if you're not familiar with the Samson option, look it up. I mean, there's so many things to even look up anymore. You have to look up Team Jorge, Jorge, Israel. You have to look that up. That's another, like, you put Team Jorge plus Samson option equals J-ish conspiracy theory. It's 100%, no questions asked. It's right there. Like, and I can't make this shit up. It's right there. I don't have to make anything up. Like, it's scary because it's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to make you think they have a hell of a lot more capability than we do. And with the Samson option, it's basically if we don't comply, if we don't submit, they'll nuke us. They'll commit worldwide genocide. That's their strategy. That's the only way they think. Worldwide genocide. Sorry. It's impossible to deny it. And I mean, I encourage you to do. I encourage you to deny it, and then use facts and look into and tell me exactly what I'm getting wrong. I mean, I know there are some of you that are looking at this from a computer, so you can minimize a window, or even if your phone, you can minimize the window and go look it up. Go double check. Go see what I'm lying about. Go look up the Samson option, Samson. Samson option. Biblical. This and then it's really important that you listen to how they talk about it. So the Samson option was also immortalized in a book called The Samson Option. So, and it's a Pulitzer Prize winning, like very well received and vetted book, proving everything just proves the conspiracy. So some authors have written about the Samson option as a retaliation strategy. Ari Shavit, Israeli reporter Ari Shavit writes of Israel's nuclear strategy. Listen to how the average, I mean, it's a psychopathic perspective. And as always, I'm going to ask you, who is going to be against me? Who is going to be mad at me for showing you guys this stuff. This is official. This isn't me. I didn't make this up. This is Wikipedia. Very easy for anyone to go look at. Funny thing is, I know people look at the edit feature on this page, the Samson option. Looks like this isn't one of those pages where anybody can edit it, huh? This page is locked up. Why is this page locked up? That also means it's official, and like this is part of the whole Samson option is a myth. They don't have nukes. They can't nuke everybody. But as long as that narrative exists in our minds and we believe that they can, it's just another example of controlling how people think. If you control how people think, you control what they think. Secondary, it's easier. If you believe they have nuclear weapons, then you can believe much easier that they have a nuclear weapon kill the world strategy. When they say that we have a nuclear weapon kill the world strategy, you can believe it. It's right there for you to believe. That's not even a question of whether you believe it or not. It's on the books. It's what they want you to know. It's about knowing. Ask yourself why anybody would even, let's just say I was talking about submarines, but I started talking about this. Why would anyone rather I talk about submarines? Why would you be concerned about my opinion on submarines as opposed to a worldwide genocide death strategy openly presented by the country that is committing genocide right now, just on a smaller scale? And that we Americans 100% pay for. Like this, you should absolutely be concerned about this. Now, in case you think I'm schizo, Ari Shavit, the Israeli reporter, said, concerning anything and everything nuclear, Israel would be much, much more cautious than the United States and NATO. Concerning anything and everything nuclear, Israel would be the responsible adult of the international community. It would well understand the formidable nature of the demon and keep it locked in the basement. Don't you see how insulting that is? Don't you see how insulting the average one of them thinks? They're the adults. The rest of us are just the dumb Goyim children. David Perlmutter, in 2002, the Los Angeles Times published an opinion piece by Louisiana State University professor David Perlmutter. I bet he's chosen. Israel has been building nuclear weapons for 30 years. The Jews understand what passive and powerless acceptance of doom has meant for them in the past, and they have insured against it. Masada was not an example to follow. It hurt the Romans not a whit. But Samson in Gaza, think about this. He's literally justifying the idea that in the past, according to the Bible, 2,000 years ago, when he says Masada is a story where supposedly an invasion of this like incredible hilltop fortress. Like how anybody even built that to begin with is not part of the question, right? We're just supposed to keep our mouths shut and follow the biblical narrative. But the narrative was that 936 Jews committed suicide rather than submit to the Romans and be captured. That's the noble narrative. Killing children. They know that 936 people exactly. 2,000 years ago, we lost the telemetry data that proves how we went to the moon in the 60s and 70s. We've lost it. We don't know where it went. It was reams and reams of information, tons, and it's the proof. It's the real proof, the tell-all proof on how we got through the Van Allen radiation belt and how we looped around and then came back and all the bullshit that is the moon landing. The proof has been lost, and that's from the 60s. But we know that 2,000 years ago, this one small community of 936 people, like, do you not think about how stupid it is to think that we would know about that here in 2024? Why would we know about that? Why? It's less than 1,000 people. Less than 1,000 people are killed, and that's this story that today justifies this one group of people being allowed to say, if anything happens to us, we're going to nuke everybody. On the official books, we don't know if Israel has nuclear capabilities. They're the only country in the world that doesn't have to confirm or deny. That just tells the inspectors to get the fuck out of here. Everybody else has to comply or it's an international incident. But Israel neither confirms nor denies it, yet they constantly leak it, and they constantly use the Samson option as a threat deterrent. If you don't give us what we want, we're going to commit genocide on the world. They used it to blackmail Nixon to giving them supplies. They use it every time something doesn't go their way. Okay, well, we're going to nuke the world, and everybody's okay with it. And then if you say, hey, you know there's a conspiracy, like a J-ish conspiracy that they control the world and they'll kill us all if we ever threaten it, everybody's programmed to go, oh, don't say that. You're not allowed to say that. It's in writing. It's on the books. It's easy to find. It's like a proud, they're proud of this shit. I'm literally reading you their pride. This is crazy. Masada was not an example to follow. The 2,000 years ago story. It hurt the road. What would serve the Jew hating world better in repayment for thousands of years of massacres, but a nuclear winter? Claim thousands of years of massacres. It's all bullshit. All bullshit. Do you know why? They're the most persecuted people and they've been kicked out of 100 countries in the last 1,000 years. It's because of their number one mitzvah. The most important thing in their belief structure is circumcision. And in their thing, circumcision involves not just cutting, but sucking. That's the number one thing. So in all these countries, people were like, hey, you can't do that anymore. And they were like, nah, we have to. And that's it. They were like, no, you can't. You got to go. That's gross. Get the fuck out of here. Thousands of years of massacres, he says. He quotes a situation where apparently a group of people off themselves, instead of complying like we should all comply. But he's calling that part of... Then he talks about thousands of years of massacres. How was that a massacre? If anything, the leader of those people massacred his people. Why? That's never talked about. You know why Hanukkah is celebrated? Because a group of the Maccabees, it's called the Maccabee Revolt. You wouldn't have thought the Maccabees was a chosen name, but it is. They decided that they were going to start going back to cutting and sucking. And who cares what's said? We want to do our thing. So they went around and found somehow, using Godspeed, they were able to travel all over the country. I mean, the narrative is just stupid. It's not a believable one, but this is what they say. Somehow this group of people was traveling all over the country, all over Europe, finding little farms and little communities where a bunch of chosen Jays lived who had been forbidden to do circumcision. And these Jays offered these other Jays to circumcise. Hey, we're going to do circumcision. Screw that. This is our thing. We're going to do it. And if the Jays said, no, no, we like our lives. Just leave us alone. We're good. They were killed. They were killed by the Jays. And so they ran around supposedly all over the country, feeding, clothing, housing, all of these, this slowly growing army, because if you did comply, then you became part of the army that then attacked the Romans and won their right. Or no, I think they still even lost. Can't remember if they won or lost, but that is the reason that whole thing is the reason why Hanukkah is celebrated. The Maccabee revolt. Go ahead, tell me if I'm off. Go ahead. Tell me. The chosen people. So, when we're talking about Masada and thousands of years of massacres, they just don't exist. It's just not a true narrative. Just like the Hollow hoax is not a true narrative. 6 million is a lie. It's not a true narrative. There were only about 3 million in Europe at the time, and most of them escaped here. So 6 million, there's a movie called 6 Million Lies. It's almost impossible to find, but if you can find it, you should watch it. It shows you how the narrative was created long before what actually happened, and how it was just all used against us, and how it's still used against us. So this guy says, because of the thousands of years of massacres they've experienced, that what's a better repayment than a nuclear winter? So this guy is again promoting genocide against non-Jays. Because everything that isn't them is just goyim, is cattle. You know, look at how we look at cattle. As humans, we look at cattle as like the ultimate sacrifice, right? We eat them, we wear their skin, we crush their bones up for different products. We put their fucking brains in food and shit. Like we just completely consume cows without a second thought. Because they're beneath us. Well, when one group of us looks at everyone else as cattle to be consumed, to be used, what does that tell you? Does that not explain why there's a genocide taking place right now, being bragged about on TV everywhere you look, all over the news? And anybody that talks about, hey, we should stop genocide, they're a bad person. That's anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism. Why do you think they call it anti-Semitism and don't say it's anti-J-ish? Why don't they say what they imply? Do you not? I guarantee you don't know what the words mean. So, you know, and fuck, I have to do this, don't I? All right, so I always have to do this to prove it. So we're going to put Semitism definition into the Google machine. Hang on, Semitism. Semitism definition. Merriam-Webster definition of Semitism. Whoa, what is going on here? Come on, phone, stop it. All right. Merriam-Webster, Semitism. Number one, Semitic character or qualities. That's 1A. 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language, like saying huzzah or something. Number two, policy or predisposition favorable to Jews. In your mind, who should get any sort of favorable policy or predisposition? Why should anyone be favored over anyone else? Favoritism is supremacy. It's a nice way of saying supremacy. So when somebody says that's anti-Semitism, they're telling you the truth. They're telling you that's anti-us supremacy. And we don't support anything that doesn't put us in a supreme position. And when you know that, they really do lose all sense of argument. First, they'll say it's biblical. Once you say, well, I don't believe in the Bible, then they'll say, then that's anti-Semitism. And as soon as you go, well, I know what that word means, because anti-Semitic would be something I'd be upset about. If you said I was anti-Semitic, I'd say, hey, that's racist. I'm not racist. Black, it's not even really racist. It's like xenophobic, I guess. But Semitic, as much as they think they own everything, they don't actually own the term Semitic. White people, black people, brown people, all of the people of that region, Palestinian, Iranian, Iraqi, Syrian, Egyptian, even the Northern Africans and shit, those are all Semitic people. So to say you're anti-Semitic is calling you somebody that's against all of those people, and you're not. Anti-Semitism is anti-supremacy, and it's something to be proud of. I'm extremely, extremely proud of my anti-Semitism. So let's go back to this guy. He says, for the years of massacres, but a nuclear winter, or invite all those tut-tutting European statesmen and peace activists to join us in the ovens. For the first time in history, a people facing extermination while the world either cackles or looks away, unlike the Armenians, Tibetans, World War II European Jews, or Rwandans, have the power to destroy the world. The ultimate justice? It's fucking nuts, man. These people are crazy. In his 2012 book, How the End Begins, The Road to a Nuclear War, to a Nuclear World War III, the American Jewish author Ron Rosenbaum described this option piece as goes so far as to justify a Samson option approach. In the book, Rosenbaum also opined that the aftermath of a second Holocaust, Israel could bring down the pillars of the world, attack Moscow and European capitals, for instance, as well as the holy places of Islam, and that the abandonment of proportionality is the essence of the Samson option. Opined, yes. There you go. We know you can pay attention now. Good. I'm glad we know people are paying attention. It's always good when people show that. But think about that. Again, they keep sort of justifying this approach based on this biblical fallacy. No man ever pulled the fucking pillars down on a temple. That's not a true story. That's biblical nonsense. Superhero biblical nonsense. If you're watching, like, share, sub, help. Come on, guys, help. Think about what I'm telling you. This is the smoking gun evidence that there is a conspiracy to kill us all. Imagine if anybody else was writing about, well, as soon as those Jays do this or as soon as those Jays do that, we should drop nukes on them and wipe them off the map. As soon as that kind of shit said, everybody loses their fucking mind. Oh my God, that's anti-Semitism. Everybody loses their mind. This is multiple. There are multiple. I'm reading you multiple different authors basically saying, yeah, if they don't support our beliefs, then we should nuke everybody. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And they're basing this shit on 2,000 plus year old nonsense. And it really, it all comes down to circumcision. They love to cut and suck on oh, it's so gross. It's so goddamn gross. Martin Van Creveld, in 2003, a military historian, Martin Van Creveld, thought that the second intifada then in progress threatened Israel's existence. See, and that's the thing. This is like somebody that has some psycho that has a bunch of guns in the house. They're much more likely to shoot somebody than if they didn't have guns in the house. And you have multiple examples of now how somebody has flown off the handle who is at a high level and, hey, wait, hey, this looks like it could be it. Let's nuke everybody. It's like they want to do it. Van Creveld was quoted in David Hurst's The Gun and the Olive Branch, 2003, as saying, "We possessed several hundred atomic warheads and rockets and can launch. We possess several hundred atomic rockets and warheads and can launch them at targets in all directions, perhaps even at Rome. Most European capitals are targets for our Air Force. Let me quote General Moshe Dayan. Israel must be like a mad dog, too dangerous to bother. I consider it all hopeless at this point. We shall have to try to prevent things from coming to that, if at all possible. Our armed forces, however, are not the 13th strongest in the world, but rather the second or the third. If they're the second or the third back in 2003, why are we still giving them $3.8 billion a year and $18 plus billion since last October? Think about how crazy that is. That's your tax dollars, Americans. And the thing is, whether we give them 3.8 billion. Canada gives them 2 billion. Australia gives them 1.2 billion. Who knows how much Germany and all the countries in Europe or UK and all that shit are responsible for giving them. They get billions and billions. The $3.8 billion we give them every year turns into about $15 billion once it transfers into shekels. And if you think about it like that 18 billion that we've given them, well, that's like 75 billion, 72 billion shekels since October of last year. It's a first world military, and all they do is kill, murder. It's genocide. We are talking about fucking genocide. If this was in reverse, if anybody was attacking them in any sort of way, it would, again, they claim that around 1,100 people in Israel were killed on October 7th of last year and have since killed at least 46,000, some say 200,000 people in response. They believe that's a justified response and that they're going to keep going because their lives are so much more valuable than ours, and they didn't even die. No Israelis were killed on October 7th, and no Israelis were taken hostage on October 7th. It's all fake bullshit. A video surfaced shortly after the 100 hostages were let go on day 50, blah, blah, blah. All those hostages that have no marks on them. They're not emaciated at all. They're not skinny. They're even tan. The old lady that was released 2 weeks after October 7th said that all of the elderly people had individual doctors prescribed to them or assigned to them so that they could prescribe whatever medications those elderly hostages needed. Because that's what you do when you take hostages, right? But after the exchange happened, a video surfaced showing those same hostages laughing, joking, hugging, saluting, shaking hands with their supposed captors just before being let go. Like any of you would do if you had been kidnapped and you were taken hostage. You'd then smile and just love those people, wouldn't you? But let's go back to this. The second or the third. We have the capability to take the world down with us. And I can assure you that that will happen before Israel goes under. However, according to Aluf Yitzhak Yaakov, again, this is about a country. These people are talking about a country. They're not even talking about their belief structure. They're saying if this country is ever threatened, that they're going to kill everybody over it. That's insanity, right? Is that not insanity to anybody else? Don't forget to like, share, and sub if you're watching. Come on, guys. 246 people here and 5 likes? That's pretty weak. Oh, I mean 154 people. It dropped just like that. Just like that, 100 people went away, apparently. That makes sense. Don't nobody like, share, a sub, says Billy. Billy doesn't want you to think for yourself. Billy's telling you, don't do it. Billy's not debunking anything I have to say, but Billy does not want you. Little Billy doesn't want you to like, share, or sub. He can watch, but you can't. However, according to Aluf Yitzhak Yaakov, who was the mastermind behind the Samson option, it was unlikely Israel could have even targeted Europe, as Israel did not yet have other measures like bombs or missiles to carry the nuclear payload. He's not saying that they wouldn't. He's saying that at that time they couldn't. Nobody's saying, hey, you know what? That's crazy. We wouldn't kill everybody over that. There's too many innocent people in this world. Nobody's even associated. We're going to kill everybody? Nobody says that. Günter Grass. In 2012, Günter Grass published the poem Was geht werden muss? What Must Be Said, which criticized Israel's nuclear weapons program. Israeli poet and Holocaust survivor Itmar Yaozikest published a poem entitled The Right to Exist, a poem letter to the German author, which addressed Grass by name. It contains the line, if you force us yet again to descend from the face of the earth into the depths of the earth, let the earth roll toward the nothingness. Oh my God. And what does he mean that they hid inside the earth? What the fuck is he talking about? Israeli Jerusalem Post journalist Gil Ronan saw this poem as referring to the Samson option, which he described as a strategy of using Israel's nuclear weapons for taking out Israel's enemies with it, possibly causing irreparable damage to the entire world. That is some crazy shit. These guys are just crazy. And then it says, see also, Dahinya doctrine of total leveling of civilian buildings. What? The Dahinya doctrine, or Daya doctrine, is an Israeli military strategy involving the large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure, or domicide, to pressure hostile governments. The doctrine was outlined by former IDF Israeli Defense Forces Chief of General Staff Gadi Eisenkot. Israel Colonel Gabi Siboni wrote that Israel should target economic interests and the centers of civilian power that support the organization. The logic is to harm the civilian population so much that they will then turn against the militants, forcing the enemy to sue for peace. But yet, if we say, hey, companies, don't give money to Israel because they're using that money to kill people, BDS, oh, that's not fair. That's not fair. You're not allowed to say that. No, that's discrimination. Blah, 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 blah. These people are insane. The doctrine is named after Dia after the Dia neighborhood, also translated as Dia or Daya, whatever, of Beirut, where Hezbollah had its headquarters during the 2006 Lebanon War, and which was heavily damaged by the IDF. The first public announcement of the doctrine was made in an interview with General Gadi Eisenkot, commander of the IDF's Northern Front, published by Yedowith Anarach in October 2008. What happened in the Daya quarter of Beirut in 2006 will happen in every village from which shots will be fired in the direction of Israel. Right there, that's exactly what I've been telling you for years. So what Israel does is they go to that area with their modern day rocket launcher, because like it's just so stupid when people don't understand what's happening. Israel has such a tight hold on everything, especially in the Palestinian enclave, that somebody thinking that not only were 5,000 rockets smuggled into Israel so they could be launched in the first 20 minutes of October 7th. By the way, the Wikipedia page for the Israel-Hamas 2023 war, when I looked it up on November 7th, a month later, it's a lot. They've changed how Wikipedia works in that regard since then, conveniently. But when I first went there on November 7th and I went to edit history and I clicked all the way back, the very first edit made on that page was at 6:22 a.m. on October 7th, 2023. Now, the interesting thing is that the completely, totally surprise, unknown, unprecedented surprise, not false flag attack started at 6:30 a.m. local time, October 7th. 8 minutes after the Wikipedia page was first edited. And even if you said it was reversed, that the first edit was made 8 minutes after the attack, to think that would be somebody's first response is to go run out and create a Wikipedia page, which in the next 3 hours, but in the next 3 hours alone, 5 or 6 profiles proceed to lay out everything that's going to happen over the next couple days. But in the first half hour, they were talking about how they said that Israel had killed 1,500 people, 1,500 Hamas in Israel almost immediately, in response, of course. And that Hamas had launched 5,000 rockets within the first 20 minutes. And it happened so fast that nobody could get any footage of it. That's why there's no footage. 5,000 rockets in 20 minutes is 4 rockets every second for 20 minutes. When you think about it like that and you think, what? Not only did somebody smuggle in 5,000 rockets through a blockade that doesn't let lumber come through because it can, quote, be used to make weapons to be used against Israel, somehow they were able to smuggle in 5,000 rockets and 5,000 rocket or rocket launchers that have the ability to launch however many rocket launchers it takes to launch 5,000 rockets in 20 minutes, 4 rockets per second. And of course, they launch all the rockets into the Israeli airspace, where the Iron Dome will intercept 99% of them. The 1% that it doesn't intercept has been analyzed that it's probably going to fall short or won't hit anything of importance, so they let that one go through. And it doesn't do any damage to anything Israeli. It might fall short and hit something, a target or whatever. But as soon as these things take place, and this happens all the time, that year after year after year, somebody will launch a couple of rockets into Israeli airspace, and as soon as they do, as soon as they're intercepted by the Iron Dome, Israel has its planes already gassed up and loaded up with bombs. They have all of their targets already ready. It's almost like they had a plan and they needed some sort of excuse to be able to execute this plan where they then target 10 different targets and kill, hundreds of people in response to a rocket supposedly being fired into Israeli airspace. And this just keeps happening. How many of you, if you were Palestinian, would fire a rocket into Israeli airspace knowing that where you fired that rocket from will then be bombed to bejesus and your rocket won't actually hit anything? How many people would continue to do something that stupid? You have to ask yourself, who's writing this fucking narrative? It's not very believable. And this is literally what they say over and over again. If Israel attacks, it's not an act of aggression or an act of war. It's a preemptive strike, and you better not fight. You better not retaliate. If you retaliate in any way, then we will fuck you up. And that's considered okay. But if anybody launches an attack into Israel, that's considered an act of war, and Israel's allowed to respond tenfold and kill as many people as they want and take as many hostages as they want and just do anything they want to do. And we are required by what's called a memorandum of understanding. The United States is then required to pay for it all. $3.8 billion a year, $18 billion since last October, plus $18 billion plus, not to mention all the military aid. It's $18 billion on top of the military aid. It's disgusting. It's all just fucking disgusting. And you guys, ask yourself, if you look at my comments right now and you look at all the clowns talking shit, who is going to be upset about this? How many good red-blooded Americans are going to be mad about somebody exposing the genocide, the Israeli genocide, and how their genocide is actually a worldwide program? They brag about it. It's literally right here. I'm proving that it exists. Can you prove something? Can you prove I'm wrong? Is there anything that exists in this narrative that we're given that shows you that there's not some sort of J-ish conspiracy? Let's see. Sorry. What happened in the Dia quarter of Beirut in 2006 will happen in every village, which shots will be fired of Beirut in 2006 will happen in every village from which shots will be fired in the direction of Israel. Sorry, they speak so weird. And it fucks with your brain when you try to read it. It's kind of like the Bible. We will yield disproportionate power and cause immense damage and destruction. From our perspective, these are military bases. This isn't a suggestion. It's a plan that has already been authorized. Every one of the Shiite villages, it's funny that we call them Shiite. Do you think that's what they like? Do you think they realize that it's Shiite? You think they understand the connection there, how that happens? Everyone from the Shiite villages is a military site with headquarters and intelligence center and a communication center. Dozens of rockets are buried in houses, basements, attics, and the village is run by Hezbollah men. In each village, according to its size, there are dozens of active members, the local residents, and alongside them, fighters from outside, and everything is prepared and planned both for a defensive battle and for firing missiles at Israel. Hezbollah understands well that its fire from within villages will lead to their destruction. Before Nasrallah gives the order to fire at Israel, he will need to think 30 times if he wants to destroy his support base in the villages. This is not a theoretical matter for him. The possibility of harm to the population is the main factor restraining Nasrallah and the reason for the quiet in the last 2 years. He's basically saying that Although the Israelis are carrying out attacks almost nightly, where they go into these villages at like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and they just kick in doors and start shooting and all that, the reason why nobody fights back, the reason why in this really, like, where in this Muslim, mainly Muslim area, even though Palestine is full of Christians as well, and nobody talks about that. One of the reasons why, along with the Abraham Accords, why you don't see any of these Muslim nations defending the Palestinians is A, the Abraham Accords, but B, this whole notion that if they stand up to the Palestinian or for the Palestinians, then they're going to be targeted next. In reality, the Palestinians are yesterday's news. The Israelis have already moved on to the Lebanese. They're killing Lebanese like crazy. And they're bragging about it, but they're still not bragging to the extent that it's actually happening. Hang on a second. Let's try one more time. It looks like they shut the comments off. Always interesting how that happens, huh? Comments just get shut off. Not even 45 minutes. That's usually when it happens. In 2010, Eisenkot formulated his views in writing as follows. The method of action in Lebanon, well, there you go. In Lebanon in 2006 was that in the first stage, targets were attacked from which an immediate threat which formed an immediate threat. And in the second stage, the population was evacuated for its protection. And only after the evacuation of the population were Hezbollah targets attacked more broadly. That is so not true. I am convinced this pattern was a moral pattern, that it was correct to use, and if another campaign is required, it will be correct to act in the same way. It is Hezbollah which transforms the hundreds of villages and the Shiite areas of Lebanon into combat spaces. I hope this understanding will cause the organization to consider carefully before it decides to use any more terror, kidnappings, or shootings. There's none of that. Go ahead and show me those stories. If they're real, show me. It's crazy. I can't believe they fucking shut this shit off. But they don't like when I have 200 plus viewers. My little 900 subscribers and I have 200 viewers. They don't like that shit. According to analyst Gabby Saboni at the Israeli Institute for National Security Studies, with an outbreak of hostilities with Hezbollah, the IDF will need to act immediately, decisively, and with force that is disproportionate, there's that word again, to the enemy's actions and the threat it poses. Such a response aims to inflict damage and the meting out to inflict damage and meting out punishment to an extent that will demand long and expensive reconstruction processes. Israel's test will be the intensity and quality of its response to incidents on the Lebanese border or terror attacks involving Hezbollah in the north or Hamas in the south. Gee, isn't that strange how this is from... Oh, wait, when is this from? I don't even know when this is from. I don't know when it's from, but it's fucking happening right now. In such cases, Israel will again not be able to limit its response to actions whose severity is seemingly proportionate to an isolated incident. Rather, it will have to respond disproportionately in order to make it abundantly clear that the state of Israel will accept no attempt to disrupt the calm currently prevailing along its borders. Israel must be prepared for deterioration and escalation, as well as for full-scale confrontation. Such preparedness is obligatory in order to prevent long-term irritation. Fucking crazy. If you don't think this shit's crazy, you're the sheep you're supposed to be, man. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is them fucking telling you. We do this on purpose. And this is like, these are shit that we're 2010, 2000, that's what we were talking about. So I don't know when that was supposed to have taken place. But we're talking about 2006, 2010, something like that. So it's interesting how it's the exact same narrative that's literally happening right fucking now. Noting that Daya was the Shia quarter in Beirut that was razed by the Israeli Air Force during the 2006 Lebanon. Razed. They were razed. You mean they were fucking destroyed, dropped bombs and all kinds of shit? God damn it. Israeli journalist Yaron London wrote in 2008 that the doctrine will become entrenched in our society, in our security discourse. Gaza, 2008. It's 2008. Some analysts have argued that Israel implemented such a strategy during the 2008-2009 Gaza war. Again, I love how they call anything they do a war, making it like, I always use the example. When you play the card game War, what happens? Is it the only time war happens is when you have the same card. Then you lay down the card face down, then you lay down the next card. And the person gets the spoils of the war. But it's not war. You don't say war until you guys have equal fighting, equal force. These aren't wars. There's not any pictures from Israel from 2008, 2009 that look like that. Not a single fucking one. Look at all that. Look at all those old world buildings. Who built those? Who built all that? Just them destroying all that old world shit. With the Goldstone report concluding that Israeli strategy was designed to punish, humiliate, and terrorize a civilian population. That's the Goldstone report. The 2009 United Nations fact-finding mission on the Gaza conflict makes several references to the Daya doctrine, calling it a concept which requires the application of widespread destruction as a means of deterrence, and which involves the application of disproportionate force and the causing of great damage and destruction to civilian property and infrastructure and suffering to civilian populations. It concluded that the doctrine had been put into practice during the conflict. However, in an April 1st, 2011 op-ed, one of the lead authors of the report, Judge Richard Goldstone, Dick Goldstone, stated that some of his conclusions may have been different had the Israeli government cooperated with his team during the investigation. Oh my God. Goldstone and co-authors Hina Jelani, Christine Chinkin, and Desmond Travers, betcha they're all Jewish, were strongly critical of Goldstone's statement, releasing a statement standing by the report, claiming that in response to the pressure to change their conclusions, had we given in to the pressure from any quarter to sanitize our conclusions, we would have been doing serious injustice to the hundreds of innocent civilians killed during the Gaza conflict, the thousands injured, and the hundreds of thousands whose lives continue to be deeply affected by the conflict and the blockade. Gee, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how everybody but them talks about that kind of shit? And then they go, yeah, well, I know we're doing that. Like, this is why they don't deny any of it. Because it's part of their policy to do it. This is the proof of it. Their policy is to to stop us from talking about this shit, to kill us as much as they can. That's their policy. That's why they don't, that's why you never see anybody having any debates about it on TV. You never see that. You only see it getting pushed. You only see the bitch ass Michael Rappaports and John Lovitz and Jerry Springer's out there talking about, if you don't support the genocide happening, then you don't support Jewish people. They're the ones that associate themselves with the genocide. And I'm more than okay with that, because I've been saying the same thing for fucking a long time now. If you don't see what's happening, man, it's because they don't want you to. The doctrine is defined in a 2009 report by the Public Committee Against Torture in Israel as follows. The military approach expressed in the Daya Doctrine deals with asymmetrical combat against an enemy that is not a regular army and is embedded within civilian population. Its objective is to avoid a protracted guerrilla war. According to this approach, Israel has to employ tremendous force disproportionate to the magnitude of the enemy's actions. The report further argues that the doctrine was fully implemented during Operation Cast Lead or Cast Lead. Not sure. They always do that shit. They always Operation Broken this, Operation, they call their shit all kinds of shit. It's just a game. It's entertainment for them. 2023. IDF tanks on operations in the Gaza Strip on October 31st. Holy shit. Dude, people live there. That was a little over a year ago. That was a bustling community. Where did all that dirt come from? That's weird. Commentators from The Guardian, The Washington Post, and Mondoese have noted that the attacks of the Israeli Defense Forces on the civilian infrastructure of Gaza during the 2003 Hamas-Israel war It's the Hamas-Israel war now, huh? We're making Israel the secondary. When we're blaming them, we're going to make them the secondary. Just any other time, when Israel's the good guy, then it's the Israel-Hamas war. Funny how that fucking works. May constitute an extension of this doctrine. What do you mean it may constitute an extension of this doctrine? It is 100% what is happening right now. You have to be fucking kidding me. Haaretz reported that IDF had dropped all restraint in its war, killed civilians, and destroyed civilian infrastructure at an unprecedented rate. Writing in The Guardian, Paul Rogers of Bradford University argues that Israel's goal in the 2023 war is to corral the Palestinians into a small zone in the southwest of Gaza where they can be more easily controlled, and that the long-term goal is to make clear that Israel will not stand for any opposition. That's not the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to kill as many people as possible. Because the Jays are fucking murderous psychopaths. And it's up to us to fix this. It's up to us, man. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Middle Eastern at all. I have no personal stake in that situation other than my tax dollars, instead of going to fixing my roads or anything like that, are going to pay for these crazy psychopaths. And then the Samantha Wool case, where this leader of the community was supposedly killed by Michael Jackson Bolanos, even though it was proven he didn't. But even though he was proven innocent, they gave him 18 months to 25 years for lying to police. Have you ever heard of anything so insane in your life? If that's not a we got to keep this guy quiet and locked away strategy, I don't know what is. 18 months to 25 years? At any point, they can just go, yeah, you know what? I know it's been almost 18 months, but you're going to do another 18 months. You're going to do another 18 months. You're going to do, and they just can keep doing that if they want to. One of these days, you're going to have to take responsibility for this shit, even though it's proven you didn't do it. But even more insane, this is the part that I really don't understand. Samantha Wool was supposedly killed. Initially, it was at 1:30, around 1:30 a.m. But then it got changed to around 4:30 a.m. so they could try to pin it on Michael Jackson Bolanos. So she was killed early morning on October 1st and discovered around 6:30 a.m. dead in her front lawn, obviously having been in a domestic situation with a partner, and the wounds that she had were personal. She stumbled out of her house and died on her front lawn. Stab wounds all in her face and neck and shit, like somebody was really mad. And nobody robbed her. Nobody did anything. Her front door never closed. She was at a wedding all night, came home so drunk that she never closed her front door. Showed she was looking at movies and stuff at whatever, 4:30 in the morning, was watching movies. Nobody stole anything from her house. Nobody assaulted her. Nothing like that. But she did have all sorts of marks on her like she was in a fight. And the time that they said that this Michael Jackson dude was in his house, and she supposedly, this chick had sensors all in her house to detect when people were moving around in her house. She just had sensors all in her house. Crazy, huh? And the whole Michael Jackson Bolanos thing is like this huge cover-up, which is funny because her boyfriend actually confessed to the crime, called the police and confessed to the crime, but then was given immunity so he would tell his story because he said, oh, well, I know I confessed, but I was having a negative reaction to my schizo medication and or my depression medication, and I'd taken a couple of hits from my vape pen, so I called the police and confessed to killing my fucking girlfriend. Because that shit happens falsely all the time, right? That makes sense, right? Isn't it interesting how the comments have been shut off here? Anyway, Samantha Wool was killed supposedly and found around 6:30 a.m. October 21st, 2023. They tried to say it was Hezbollah associated, but that fell apart right away. But according to the October 22nd early morning news, her funeral that over 1,000 people attended yesterday was beautiful. How is someone, especially a prominent someone, killed, investigated, funeraled, and buried all in one day? How does the coroner, how does that person jump the line as far as the coroner having to investigate? How does that person jump the line as far as any other funerals that happen to be going on that day? How is it that somebody can be found dead at 6:30 and have a funeral that over 1,000 people attend within hours? How is that possible in any fucking universe you live in? Don't forget to get your free download. Links are in the description. Pedophiles, kill yourself.